When it comes to video games, there's nothing half as good as being totally evil. A countless swathe of digital titles offers the player the chance to phone it in for the forces of good and dial up the devil inside, and you know what? To be honest, it's the perfect medium in which to exorcise those demons. Nobody gets hurt, they're often hilarious moments, and of course, it's just that little bit cooler to do so. However, there are some titles that push the boat way further out than just letting you rob and roughhouse people, because the 10 entries on this list, well, they actually posit you as the all-powerful evil for their respective narratives. Whether you're playing as a demonically infused infant, a rampaging murderer, or just a genuine set of horrible people, these video games took the ball and ran with it when it came to being bad. And you might even look at a few of these games and think that they went too far, and to be honest, I can't blame you, because they don't just hit close to the bone, but some of them look to bloody break it as well. With this in mind, I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 horror video games where you were the true evil. Number 10. The Suffering. The Suffering franchise was a short-lived but genuinely brilliant horror experience, focusing on a man named Torque who had been in prison for the death of his ex-wife and children. After an earthquake hits the prison that he's in, all hell literally breaks loose as horrific creatures burst forth and try to kill everything in their sight. However, there's something about these monstrosities that resonates with Torque, for they not only seem to be reflections of the atrocities that took place in the prison, but also of the man's inner demons. Throughout the experience, the player is asked to make several choices, each of which affects the game's ending, and that they can either find out that Torque didn't kill his family, or in fact find out that he most definitely did. Yet this is just the beginning. As come the sequel, it turns out that the game reads your save file and rewrites the entire title based on the ending you received. Therefore, if you went rogue in the first game, you'll begin the second as a hated and vilified individual, and this even shapes the bosses and experience that you receive, further pushing Torque down into the depths of depravity. It does get pretty bleak. Number 9. Hatred. In a rather paradoxical moment, I really don't want to talk about Hatred, but I've chosen to put it on this list. For while it is an awful game that looks to appeal to water cooler masturbators who want to pretend that they're edgy and cool by playing this game about murdering innocent people for the sheer hell of it, Hatred definitely ticks the box of being the true evil. The plot, if you can call it that, of Hatred is that your unnamed and likely unwashed trenchcoat turd of a character is dying of a medical condition and has therefore decided that before he goes, he wants to take down as many people as possible. Cue a rampage of unprecedented measures which might genuinely make you feel a little ill, although that might just be the incredibly bland gameplay. You can shoot, stab, explode, and mulch bystanders, police forces, and anything else that gets in your way, and at no point does the woe is me edgelord tone falter. And what this makes for is a game that places you in the boots of a psychopath but takes itself way too seriously, and as a result, it's a piece of trash. Number 8. Lucius. Have you ever watched The Omen and thought to myself, my god, I am never having kids? Well, don't worry, pal, because I'm right there with you thanks to the horrors that Damien unleashes across that film's runtime. However, if you fancy being this literal child of Satan, then Lucius is most definitely the game for you. The title plays out as a kind of hitman with the powers of a devil simulator, with the young and most definitely evil child doing whatever his daddy dearest the devil asks of him. This involves locking maids in fridges, stabbing reporters in the back, and basically destroying the legacy of Lucius's own family. Now, the family itself is painted in a negative light, all being drunks, liars, and adulterers, but they pale in comparison to a child who burns the family home to the ground and seeks to rain down terror on anyone in his path. It's genuinely unnerving at times to witness the horrible act. However, the B-movie dialogue and script definitely keep this from being taken too seriously. Number 7. Alone in the Dark 2008. I'm the Lightbringer! I'm the universe! This laughable quote from the solid middle-of-the-road experience that is the 2008 Alone in the Dark may well be the most memorable thing about this game, and comes at the close of the title when the player can choose to make Edward Carnby accept Lucifer himself inside his body. And it's quite a sight, let me tell you, but one that was actually hinted at throughout the game, as it's revealed that Edward carries within him the Philosopher's Stone, making him the perfect vessel for the fallen angel who is being summoned by cultist members. And you might be fooled into thinking that Edward is a hero thanks to his constant battle against the dark, but to be honest, whatever ending you choose leaves us with an expression of true evil. In one instance, you accept Lucifer and bring forth his army of darkness, and the other ending, in which Edward allows Sarah to be possessed in his place, he turns and leaves the scene without even attempting to stop Lucifer. And as we know, for true evil to exist, good people simply just have to do nothing. And Edward, well, he does bugger all. Number 6. Love, Sam. In the quagmire of indie horror games, it can be genuinely hard to stand out, such as the sheer weight of choices that players have to pick from. But Love, Sam manages to not simply just be an effective and creepy title, but does so in a minimalistic way that makes the final twists all the more memorable. In essence, the game is about reading journal entries and then encountering some set-piece scary moments, but the content of said pages and the choreographing of these jump scares is really quite something to behold. You find that when the scares trigger, you genuinely won't see them coming because you're so engrossed. Yet it's the narrative of this diary that's the most engaging moment, as when you begin to piece together the events, it becomes clear that you are no hero whatsoever, and in fact, you are responsible for the death of a local teenager driven to jealousy when a boy you like has decided to move on with someone else. It's a tragic look into the inability to deal with rejection and the anger that manifests in these situations, and Love, Sam will leave you shaking not just from the horror, but from how real some of these moments felt. Number 5. Amnesia: The Dark Descent. It's almost impossible to find a person who hasn't played Amnesia: The Dark Descent at this point in time, such was its huge popularity with YouTubers and within the horror community. And yet in between all the screams, montage videos, and looking at the camera before the bloody scares happen, milking the reaction for all it's worth, there is a simple fact that many ignore, and that's that Daniel, the player's avatar, is an arsehole. Not only is it Daniel's fault that the castle is completely overrun with a spreading evil known as the Shadow thanks to him unearthing an orb of mysterious origin, but he allowed himself to be coerced into committing some truly heinous crimes. You see, the orb allows the user to dimension hop, but is powered by life energy, and so Daniel and his supposed friend Alexander decide that they fancy a trip around the stars and so begin torturing innocents to extract their essences. Think Monsters Inc., but much less funny. Daniel is completely aghast at the things that he's done and so decides to drink an elixir erasing his memories and then telling his future self to kill Alexander. So rather than help the people that he's imprisoned or taking on Alexander there and then, he decides to palm that responsibility off onto what is essentially another person. What a dick move. Number 4. The Silent Hill franchise. One of the most defining features of the Silent Hill franchise, aside from some utterly brilliant enemy designs, is that each entry in the series focuses on a protagonist with a troubled past. In fact, thanks to the evil that radiates from Silent Hill, it's actually these mental insecurities or repressed emotions that allow these horrifying events to even take place. Of course, there's much more to the series than this, including cults that try to resurrect a deity simply known as God and usher in a new apocalypse or age of paradise depending on who you're talking to. However, the constant factor throughout all of these is that you're never playing as a character who is wholly innocent. And to further prove this, each game offers multiple endings, with the worst or bad endings usually revealing some kind of truly horrific thing about the protagonists. Travis from Silent Hill Origins is revealed to be a serial killer, Alex Shepard can become a monster himself by not accepting his past, and of course with James Sunderland we get the horrifying knowledge that he killed his own wife giving birth to his demons, including the franchise all-star that is Pyramid Head. Number 3. Blood. While you might look at Blood and think that a game this chaotic and gore-soaked would have a plot about as thin as a piece of paper, you'd actually be mistaken. For while the game itself doesn't deal out much more information than there is a thing, go kill it quickly, the accompanying website for Blood laid everything bare, and it turns out that you're kind of the bad guy. You play as Caleb, who is on the warpath after being betrayed by the other members of a cult that he was a high-ranking member of. Now the cult worship a deity called Chernobog, who isn't exactly all smiles and sunshine. Since his fall from the top, Caleb is out to destroy the cult entirely. However, at no point is he shown to be remorseful for his past involvement in the cult, merely just being that he's pissed that they cast him out. It's easy to forget this as you scream through the game covered head to foot in viscera, but let it be known, we are no savior. In fact, Chernobog wants to use our rampaging power as it realizes how violent and destructive you are. So when you've got a deity saying, "Oh, okay, chill out there, pal," maybe it's best that you rethink your choices. Number 2. Blood Omen 2. I think it's safe to say that Cain from the Legacy of Kain series isn't exactly a nice fella. As a vampire with utter contempt for humanity, he's never been shy about obliterating enemies and allies alike for his own personal gain. However, if you want to experience a true slice of evil, then check out his actions in Blood Omen 2. In the original game, Cain gathered together an army of vampires which he took forth in order to enslave the world. But at the beginning of Blood Omen 2, we find out that his crusade was dealt a heavy defeat, and now he's awoken some 200 years later in a world run by humans who are able to use glyph magic to hunt down vampires. The tables have been turned indeed. However, Cain, well, he just flips the entire table in a huff and goes about slaughtering everyone he meets. Even though the game paints him as an anti-hero, this guy is a monster, quite literally in fact, as he doesn't want to wrest control back in order to make Nosgoth a happy utopia, he just wants to turn the world into his personal blood bank. And number 1, Yandere Simulator. Now, this is a bit of a strange entry, but then again, Yandere Simulator is a very, very strange game. Whereas many other horror games on this list cover themselves in doom and gloom and bathe in low lighting, Yandere Simulator opts for a hyper-stylized, bright and colorful art style, making it look like your typical anime game. However, if you're an anime fan, you'll know that Yandere is a term that's given to a character who is sweet as pie one minute, but can flip on a dime and become aggressive or even psychotic the next. It's not a nice portrayal of what effectively amounts to a personality disorder, but Yandere Simulator isn't exactly a nice game, with you taking the role of Ayano as she desperately tries to win the affection of Senpai. However, as the game makes clear to mention, Senpai is getting popular at school, so it's up to you to make sure that you're all that they notice. If this sounds like it's getting a bit dark, it is, as eliminating other rivals is truly gruesome. You can poison people, stab them, or even tie their hair to a weight and push them into a swimming pool to drown them. There's no doubt here that you are an evil person through and through, and what makes it even worse is that this character never shows a single shred of remorse. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 horror video games where you were the true evil. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. If you want to chat to me further, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice, which is my personal gaming channel where I stream every Wednesday and Sunday. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. We talked today about video games where you were the true evil, but you know what, my friend? You, yes, you listening to this video, you're not evil. You're not a bad person. You are a person that deserves love, happiness, and success. If you have made mistakes in the past, then don't worry, we all make them. Nobody is perfect. It doesn't mean that you are a truly evil person. Go out there with love in your heart, try to help people, try to lift people up, and prove to the world what I already know, that you are a massive ledge. Now go out there and absolutely smash it. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.